Picture this. You're walking down your local high street, minding your own business, perhaps contemplating whether you need milk or if you can stretch that dodgy carton in the fridge for one more day, when you notice something unusual. English flags. Lots of them. Hanging from street lamps, draped over signposts, fluttering in the wind like a textile invasion. And before you can even process what you're seeing, the entire political establishment has descended into an absolute bun fight about whether these flags represent patriotic pride or something far more sinister. Welcome to Britain in 2025, where even our national symbols have become weapons in the culture war. Quick favor. If you're loving what we're doing here at British Mirror, hit that subscribe button and smash the bell icon. Over 94% of you haven't subscribed yet. It's completely free, takes about 2 seconds, and honestly means a world to us. Cheers if you've already done it. Right, back to the show. Boris Johnson, the man with more comebacks than a boomerang factory, has waded into this flag controversy with all the subtlety of a rhinoceros in a china shop. Taking to Twitter. Because where else would one conduct serious political discourse in the modern age, Boris absolutely slams her Keir Starmer over his reaction to people putting up English flags and Union Jacks. And here's where things get properly spicy. Boris claimed that Keir Starmer's Labour Party doesn't share their patriotism. That's not a minor disagreement about policy. That's questioning the fundamental relationship between the governing party and national identity itself. That's political napalm. Now, before we dive deeper into this absolutely delicious political drama, let's establish what's actually happening on the ground. Over the summer, flags started appearing in public spaces across England. Not during a football tournament, not for the Jubilee, not for any official occasion. Just spontaneously, organically, mysteriously appearing on street furniture like patriotic mushrooms after rain. People hanging them from street lamps and signposts, creating what Boris himself described as a festive, almost Jubilee mood that brightens up the winter months. He even told his children they're just a way to say hooray for England, hooray for Britain. Simple, uncomplicated, wholesome patriotism, right? Well, not quite, because in modern Britain, nothing is ever that simple. The response to these flags has been absolutely fascinating and reveals a fundamental divide in how different groups view national symbols. Those putting them up say they are simply a symbol of patriotism. Fair enough. Can't fault someone for loving their country, can you? But others, and this is where things get contentious, believe they are fear-mongering tools of the far right used to stir up anti-immigration sentiments and other tensions. Fear-mongering tools. That's quite the accusation. It transforms a piece of cloth into a political statement, a weapon, a dog whistle. Suddenly, your St. George's flag isn't just expressing pride in your country. It's making a statement about who belongs and who doesn't. It's declaring your position in ongoing cultural battles about immigration, integration, and national identity. Sir Keir Starmer, ever the careful lawyer, tried to navigate this minefield with the political equivalent of bomb disposal training. Speaking to The Guardian back in September, he said that St. George's flag represents our diverse country, and that he would not tolerate people being intimidated on our streets because of their background or the color of their skin. That's a carefully calibrated statement. It acknowledges the flag as a national symbol while simultaneously condemning anyone who might weaponize it for racist purposes. Walking that tightrope must require exceptional balance. But Starmer didn't stop there. Speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live, he went further, saying is very encouraging of flags, thinks they are patriotic, and believes they are a great symbol of our nation. So far, so good. But then came the caveat, the qualification, the classic political hedge. He doesn't think flags should be devalued and belittled, and sometimes when they are used purely for divisive purposes, it actually devalues a flag. Ah, there it is. The suggestion that whilst flags are wonderful in principle, in practice they can be problematic. That some people, the wrong sort of people, might be flying them for the wrong reasons. And that's what's got Boris absolutely fuming. Because from Boris's perspective, and is written about this in the Daily Mail with characteristic bombast, he has nothing against these impromptu displays of national feeling. Nothing whatsoever. In fact, he actively celebrates them. He sees them as evidence that ordinary people still love their country, still want to express pride in being English, in being British, despite living under a government that apparently doesn't understand or share that sentiment. That's the accusation Boris is leveling at Labour. Not that they disagree on tax policy or health service funding or infrastructure investment. No, something far more fundamental, that they don't love Britain the way ordinary people do. Boris argues that people are putting English and British flags up because the Labour government can't be relied on for simple and uncomplicated patriotism. Simple and uncomplicated patriotism. That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting. What Boris is suggesting is that patriotism shouldn't require caveats, qualifications, or careful statements about diversity and inclusion. It should be straightforward. You love your country. You fly your flag. End of story. No need to worry about whether someone might misinterpret your intentions or whether you're accidentally aligning yourself with unsavory political movements. Just pure, uncomplicated national pride. But is that even possible in 2025? Can patriotism ever be truly uncomplicated? Because here's the uncomfortable reality. Symbols mean different things to different people. A flag that represents centuries of history and achievement to one person might represent empire, colonialism, and exclusion to another. A flag that makes one person think of Shakespeare, the Magna Carta, and Winston Churchill might make another think of Windrush, partition, and the Troubles. National symbols carry baggage. They are complex. They are contested. And pretending otherwise doesn't make that complexity disappear. It just means you're ignoring it. Now, Boris being Boris, he couldn't resist expanding his critique beyond flags to immigration policy, because of course he couldn't. He slammed the government for cancelling the previous Conservative government's plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Ah yes, the Rwanda scheme. That spectacularly expensive, legally dubious plan that cost £200,000 per person according to the Migration Observatory. £200,000 per person. You could fund someone's entire university education, buy them a house deposit, set them up in business, and still have change left over for that amount of money. But instead, the plan was to fly asylum seekers to Rwanda. The Conservative government insisted it was a deterrent. Critics called it inhumane, unworkable, and potentially illegal. Labour scrapped it almost immediately upon taking power. Kiir's got a very clear vision for making sure that people can really deal with the cost of living, that public services will get back on their feet, and is building a Britain that is tolerant, that is open, that is confident in itself, and that is really about renewal and investment in young people, as opposed to the division and the decline of the opposition. Now, that's a lovely soundbite. It ticks all the boxes. Vision, tolerance, renewal, investment. But the problem is, it sounds like exactly the kind of thing a political operative would say when they are desperately trying to spin a disaster into something manageable. Because out in the real world, at places like Ally Pally, people aren't buying it. And here's the thing about these Dutch chants. They're not organized political protests. There's no campaign group behind this. No one's handing out flyers or coordinating on WhatsApp groups. This is organic, spontaneous public anger. These are regular people, many of whom probably voted Labour in the last election, who've decided that Starmer has let them down. And they're expressing that frustration in the most British way possible, by taking the piss out of him at a sporting event. It's the modern equivalent of being pelted with rotten vegetables in the town square. And for Starmer, that should be terrifying. Because if you've lost the darts crowd, you've lost Middle England. You've lost the working-class voters Labour desperately needs to hold on to. You've lost the people who gave you a massive parliamentary majority and expected you to deliver real, tangible change. There's also something deeply symbolic about this happening at the darts. Darts isn't football. It's not rugby. It's not a sport associated with hooliganism or political extremism. It's darts. It's one of the most accessible, inclusive, working-class sports in Britain. It's a sport where everyone's welcome, where the crowd is as much a part of the spectacle as the players, where the atmosphere is all about having a good time. And if that crowd is turning on you, if they are using their platform to collectively express their disdain, then you're not just unpopular with a fringe group. You're unpopular with the mainstream. Now, let's talk about the rumors swirling around Westminster, because this isn't happening in a vacuum. There are whispers, increasingly loud whispers, of in-party insurrection. Labour MPs are reportedly growing restless. Some are concerned that Starmer's achievements aren't cutting through to the public. Others are worried that the party is repeating the mistakes of previous Labour governments, focusing too much on messaging and not enough on material improvements to people's lives. There's a sense, rightly or wrongly, that Starmer is all style and no substance. That is brilliant at looking prime ministerial, but less brilliant at actually governing. And when your own MPs are starting to question your leadership, when backbenchers are grumbling to journalists about the direction of the party, that's when a prime minister's position becomes genuinely precarious. The comparison to Boris Johnson is particularly telling. Johnson was forced out not because he lost a general election, but because his own party turned on him. His approval ratings tanked. His MPs decided he was an electoral liability, and he was gone. Now, Starmer's in a slightly different position because Labour has a huge parliamentary majority. He's not at immediate risk of losing a vote of no confidence. But politically, the trajectory is worrying. If his ratings continue to plummet, if Labour starts losing by-elections, if those Dutch chants become representative of broader public sentiment, then his MPs will start to panic. And panicking MPs do unpredictable things. They start briefing against the leadership. They start positioning themselves for a potential contest. They start asking whether the party would be better off with someone else at the helm. And let's be brutally honest here, Starmer isn't exactly a charismatic figure. He's competent, certainly. He's serious. He's loyally, but is not inspiring. He's not the kind of politician who sets hearts racing or imagination soaring. He's the kind of politician you vote for because he's the safe option, the sensible choice, the grown-up alternative. But when the safe option starts to feel like the wrong option, when competence without charisma starts to look like just boring ineffectiveness, then people stop giving you the benefit of the doubt. And right now, the British public has stopped giving Starmer the benefit of the doubt. They are not waiting patiently for things to improve. They are chanting about him at the darts. There's also a generational element to this. Starmer came to power promising change, promising to fix the mess left by years of Conservative government. Young people, in particular, had high hopes. They wanted action on climate change, on housing, on job security. They wanted a government that actually gave a damn about their future. And so far, they're not seeing it. The promised changes haven't materialized. The cost of living is still crushing. Opportunities still feel limited. And that disillusionment is dangerous because young voters are the ones who can swing elections. They are the ones who can energize campaigns or stay home and doom them. And if they've decided Starmer's just another disappointing politician, then Labour's in serious trouble. But perhaps the most damning thing about these Dutch chants is what they represent, a complete breakdown in the relationship between the government and the governed. People are supposed to respect their leaders, even if they disagree with them.